When you are on the go, you need your credit union to be right there with you. Hughes Federal Credit Union makes your life easier. For 65 years, Hughes has called Southern Arizona home and has given back to our community. Isn't that who you want as your financial partner?
Welcome to Greg Hansen's Video Notebook, brought to you by Hughes Federal Credit Union. I'm Star Sports Editor Ryan Finley, here with Greg Hansen. Greg, welcome back to Tucson. Arizona Wildcats were eliminated from the NCAA tournament. Then both of us got sick. It's nice to see your face again.
Yeah, nice to see you.
There is some breaking Arizona news, maybe sort of Tucson news here. Lorenzo Romar and Sean Miller had dinner together. Arizona has a vacancy on its assistant coaching staff. Lorenzo Romar is unemployed. I just connected the dots. Should you? Should they?
You would think this time next week, maybe next Friday, Arizona will announce Lorenzo Romar is going to be their new assistant coach, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that is, if this happens, as to me, unlikely a pairing as I've ever seen at Arizona, and it's something that thrills me. I think this could be a really cool thing.
It makes so much sense, though, when you look at the stage of each man's career. Sean Miller is 48 now. He's ready for the prime years of his career coming up. And if he is willing to add someone like Lorenzo Romar with all of his accomplishments, and Romar is in turn willing to come here and be a number 2 guy, right? The best for both men.
Absolutely. And you look at Lorenzo Romar, the first thing I think of is this is a guy who is recruited incredibly well year in, year out at Washington. Oh, wow. Had one of America's top recruiting classes coming in at the time he was fired. He may be able to bring a couple guys with him.
Yeah. The current Washington recruiting class, what's left of it, you would think at least one of those guys will come to Tucson.
Absolutely, yes. And secondly, you look at their style of play, and to me this is what makes this entire marriage, if it were to happen, so fascinating. Lorenzo Romar is sort of a ideological son of Lute Olson, right? Recruited really well, very good at sort of rolling the ball out, going up and down the floor. High-paced, exciting basketball. Sean Miller is not that at all. By bringing in Lorenzo Romar, does Sean Miller admit maybe that they need to push the pace a little bit?
Isn't that your first reaction?
Yes.
That Sean is going to make some tinker a little bit and going to quicken the pace? I mean, you know, Arizona has about the 300 quickest pace, or non-quickest pace in college basketball. But it's kind of misleading because 200 of those are within 1 second per possession. But anything to make Arizona's offense a little bit different, not a huge overhaul, but a little bit different.
To me, I think that if there's any criticism of the way the style Arizona has played under Sean Miller, and it's a minor thing because they've been very successful, it's that this team usually has, you know, 4 of the 5 most athletic people on the floor at any given moment, and they play like they don't. You know, it's a lot of half court, a lot of screens, not a lot of running and gunning and showing off your athleticism. I think kids prefer to play in a faster paced style, and I think it would serve Arizona well to play just a little bit faster because they have such a talent edge almost all the time.
I don't disagree with that, but maybe it could also just be that Sean Miller, who is such a fierce recruiter, simply wants to recruit better. Wants that one extra guy. Maybe it has nothing to do with pace.
Sean Miller capable of recruiting better? I mean, he's recruited pretty darn well.
No, he's as good as it gets.
Yeah, to me, it would be very interesting if any other coach, any man other than Lorenzo Romar, I would ask you, but what about their egos? But Lorenzo Romar, you've been around him for 20 years. This is not a man who will demand the spotlight, I don't think.
You know, after most games at McHale Center during the league season, I'll go to the visitors' locker room first when the coach comes out. And more than half the time, it's something you almost dread because they've had their butts kicked. And most of the coaches, frankly, aren't that fun to deal with. Lorenzo Romar, even in losses, was a guy I went, oh, good, it's Lorenzo Romar tonight. This guy's a first-class human being. He was so good to deal with. And if you can add that element to Arizona, which is a secretive program, you know, they're so private. If you can just add Romar, and don't expect him to be out in public, he wouldn't be. But just adding Romar's persona to the program makes it more inviting, I think.
Absolutely. It's funny, nobody has talked that much about Sean Miller's assistant coaching hires over the years, in part because he has a type. I mean, he has brought in, you know, whether it was his brother Archie or James Whitford or Joe Pasternak, very much grinder, always in the office, behind the scenes guys who eventually moved on because they earned every speck of respect and reputation. Lorenzo Romar is a work-life balance guy. I mean, this is somebody who has been a head coach in a major program and understands that you can't be in the office all the time. To me, that's a massive departure.
That's those 3 words about the balance in your life that you just said. I think that triggered this whole thing.
Right.
That Sean Miller wants a different balance in his life, and Lorenzo Romar can help him get it.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Greg Hansen's Video Notebook, brought to you by Hughes Federal Credit Union. For Greg Hansen, now this thing just needs to become official. I'm too excited now.
Yeah. I mean, Lute Olson never had a high-profile assistant like this.
No, it'd be really interesting if this happens. I'm Ryan Finley, and Lorenzo Romar, if you'd like to talk about work-life balance, I think Greg and I could use a little bit of help. So, we're open. I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.